So I'm Deacon Jr. This is my wife, Deaconess Marissa.
Hello.
Hola. So we're just basically going to testify of, when we first came to the church, um, and how God transformed that situation and how chaotic that situation was. Because you guys know, when we first come to God, like, everybody's jacked up. So, to put it short and simple, when I first started coming to the church, I think I came here when I was about 15. We got married when I was 19, so I met her, 16?
14.
14. And at that time, I was smoking weed at that time. I was fully, I know you guys see me as like, bubbly, like laughy, happy-go-lucky, calm, But at that time, I had a lot of depression, a lot of fear, and I tried to self-medicate that myself, and tried to heal myself. Really, thought I could do that through, smoking weed. As silly as that sounds. Which, I mean, to you guys, that might sound like a foreign concept, but to the world, that's kind of standard. A lot of people run from their insecurities and they try to resolve it through smoking weed. So,
It just wasn't one time a day. It was when he first woke up.
Okay.
Every time he could get a hold of it, he was very heavily addicted.
Yeah.
Really heavily addicted. That's what he depended on.
Right. So when we first got here, well, actually, we can fast forward. So when we first got married, I'm battling with this addiction, right? I was trying to obviously we come to the church, so you try to find ways to go around that. So when I knew I was coming to church, I would just give her all my drugs. I'd be like, all right, I got church today, so could you just take this and then we'll come back and we'll get back to it on Monday,
He was doing this even before I started coming to the church. He'll be like, it's Friday. He'll be like, oh, can you hold my bong and my weed and just bring it back to school on Monday? And I'm like, sure. I didn't know what he was doing at the time. But once I started coming to the church, I was like, oh, he was giving me his stash to hold.
Yeah. So, while you're battling, addictions, you try to find ways to resolve it yourself. So in my mind, I'm thinking well, maybe if I can stop for a little bit, it'll help me. But I come to church and you still got that hole in your heart. So you go right back to Monday, and if your situation doesn't change, you're not gonna change. You could try to resist it in your mind as much as you want. I remember the first time seeing well, the church is a little bit different now. But when we were in the old location, I seen I think Elder Sarah and Pastor, this is when people were going to hell in front of us. So you guys just see they turn the lights off and it's so imagine you're there and you see that, you're gonna be traumatized. So
They spiritually went to hell. So they were in prayer, and their spirit, they were able to feel the torment that was going on in hell.
So, I mean, I laughed. So I was able to stop for a good 2-3 months. But my circumstance didn't change. So I wasn't able to actually fully be healed, And once we moved out here, I got a job. I got my first job. I didn't have a job. Pastor had to help me get a job. He tells you guys the Cold Stone story all the time, right?
That's right.
I didn't have a license. I didn't have anything. She was the one that had the work experience. She had a license. She was a young adult, and I was just a delinquent. And so pretty much how that went was because you don't change, God tries to like he'll still allow you certain things. Like he'll give you a job, he'll give you a license, he'll help you get to a certain point, but you're only going to be capped so far. You're not going to be able to get the full benefits of what it is to be planted in this church, really. So, with that being said, I'm still addicted. So, like, one of my first jobs was like a medical cleaning. I was cleaning like medical equipment, and I would go to work, and I'm still addicted, right? So, like, lunch comes, I'm gonna go smoke, come back into work like everything's fine. I'm like, eyes half closed, and then some days like I would be clocked in, and then I'd have her come pick me up. So she'd come pick me up, and I'm clocked in, and I'm just dipping, like I'm leaving work to go smoke, but I'm still clocked in, So then that went so far, right? Like I was still doing that, and then I walk into work one day, and my boss is in there, and he's got my folder in his hand with like my real birth certificate, not the duplicate, like the real one, and he's holding it, and he's like, So where you been at? I'm like, I just went down the street real quick. I just came back. So what kind
and
of
he's high.
What kind of answer is that? He ripped it up so fast and said, "Get the F out."
So he lost his job.
I lost that job, right?
And it paid higher than minimum wage at that time. I think he was getting paid like $14, which was that's like your first job.
Right.
It was like, we were like, oh, he's getting paid $14. He's getting paid $3 over minimum wage.
Right. But even with that, though, it was like, I had to take that job because I wouldn't be honest and say that I smoked, because certain jobs drug tested. So I just took that job just because, they didn't drug test. So I was able to get that job, and then God let that happen. So once that happened, let's see. Then the car got hit. I'm sure you guys have heard this story as well. Let's see. What day? Car got hit Christmas Eve. Let's see. How do I want to say this? Car got hit Christmas Eve. I remember I was sleeping in the bed because I was high, of course. I was sleeping. It might have been about like 8 o'clock, Christmas Eve, and I'm sleeping.
It was like 11 p.m.
Was it?
Yeah.
I was high. So somebody calls me and they're like, "Hey, bro, your car just got hit onto the curb."
But we heard it.
It's like a loud bang.
We heard it, and then his friend called.
He called me.
And we saw our car on the curb completely totaled.
Yeah, I ran out
Christmas Eve
there
at 11 o'clock at night.
Picture like the curb is like right here. The car was like knocked like onto the curb. So it's like slanted like this. And then like the other car behind it is totaled, and the other one behind that one is totaled. So somebody just literally just came in and just smacked it onto the curb. It's Christmas Eve. So like I had just lost my job. So I had like my last check. And then we had to call to get it towed off of the curb.
Which cost $200 to get it towed from off the curb back onto the street properly so they won't ticket our car.
It was $230. It was $230.
It was $198.
Was it?
Yes.
You sure?
Oh, yeah.
All right. We can go with that. Yeah, so I had to pay that. And mind you, we already didn't have that much money. And prior to that situation happening, we had spoke with the landlord. We were renting a room from this, is he a Japanese guy? Japanese, Asian,
He was either Japanese or Chinese, but English wasn't his first language.
That part. So, so he came to me like, what? I think I was smoking in the room or something. He came to me and he knocks on the door and he goes, yeah, so just so you know, we're going to be moving out in July. So, you should start looking for a place. I'm not thinking that's like the 30-day notice, though. I'm not thinking anything of it, right? And then,
He mixed up January and July. So he meant to say it's January, but since English is not his first language, he said July.
he comes back like maybe like a week later, like, oh, I meant January. My English is bad.
Yeah. But at that time, he's like, our lease is done. He's like, I found a place. He was like, so where are you guys gonna go? We were like, what do you mean? Where are we gonna go? So yeah.
Yeah. So that was that. What else happened? I don't know if we've told you guys it. So we had a friend of mine that was like, he was coming out here because I was still trying to help, trying to hang out with my friends or whatever. So he was like sleeping on the floor. He ends up flooding the toilet. So all the poop comes out of the toilet and it like destroys like the carpet and whatever else. So I lost my job. We have to move. The carpet is nasty because there's poo stains in the carpet because there's poo everywhere.
Car's totaled.
The car is totaled.
And this is all Christmas Eve.
And yeah, we wake up on Christmas Day. Merry Christmas.
And this was our first Christmas at the church, being married. This was our very first Christmas. And yeah.
Yeah, so that's that part. So then I think we called Pastor and we let him know the situation because you never let him know until it's too late.
Until there's poop on the carpet.
Until there's poop, and then So that's how that went. And then he said, "Just move all your stuff into the church, and then we'll go from there."
And Elder Daniel and Joshua helped us.
Yeah, Elder Daniel and Joshua came to help us, and then they found okay. So Pastor still didn't know that I smoked at this time, so they ended up finding like a roach roach. I guess I could say a roach.
It's what after you smoke. It's like the last little bit. It's called a roach.
So they found it like as they're moving stuff out of the room, and then I think I gave Pastor a hug one Sunday, and I smelled like smoke. Is that what happened? She remembers. And then
if you smoke weed, you smell like smoke, whether you think you put on enough cologne or perfume. It's not gonna help.
Right. So with that being said, we come to church and of course we're all defeated, right? We're sitting there and we're looking all stupid in the face.
All of our stuff's moved into the church, into the kids' room in the Osgood location.
Yeah.
About to be homeless.
Right.
About to be homeless. He had no job. We had like no car, no money. We were like, what in the world is happening? Like it was just not a great situation.
Right. And Pastor walks in, right? And we're sitting like in the old sanctuary. We're sitting there and Pastor walks up and I'm like, man, I just don't know what I'm going to do, right? Like, like things. And Pastor goes, well, you need to start praying or something. Like,
He was like, you guys should be praying right now. And then we'd put music on our phone. We were like praying in the corner of the Osgood location. And we were like, okay. So we were like praying, and then they called us into a meeting.
Right. They called us into the meeting, and then we're sitting there, and Pastor looks at me and he goes, so, you got anything you want to confess? And I'm sitting there like, no. So I'm sitting there, right? And mind you, I know what it is, right? You always know what it is in the back of your mind. And I was really trying to like work up the courage to like be able to do it, but when you're so addicted to something, you really don't want to let it go. And it becomes harder when you actually have to confess it. So when he asked me that, I kind of like ran around the question, and then he asked me again, and I was getting ready to do the same thing, and then my wife started looking at me, and like I could feel like her looking at me, and like it's like burning like the side of my face. I could just feel her just looking at me, right? And then finally I confessed, right? And as I confessed, I started crying. You know? There was I felt free. I felt happy to at least be able to just get that off my chest without like feeling like I'm doing something wrong. Because sometimes that's all you need, to just be able to just be open and be able to, you know, have that conversation without feeling like you're going to be judged or condemned for it. And when that happened, so prior to that meeting, we could just rewind. We had been looking at places. So Sue was helping us. We looked at maybe 3 places.
Yeah, and there was 2 possible ones that were considering us. One was a house. It was absolute chaos. Now that I'm looking back on it, this kid had autism because he was like bouncing off the walls. He was drawing. He was like, it was just so chaotic, and it smelled in there. And then the next house, it was so nice and clean. We get our own room, our own bathroom. It came with the bed because we didn't have a bed. And so those were our 2 options that Sue drove us to go see. So then right when he confessed, I'm not even kidding, literally my phone rang right when he confessed, and it was the landlord that we wanted to call, and she was like, yeah, you guys got the place. Amen. So we ended up being like on the verge of being almost homeless to right when he confessed. Not only did he become free from his addiction, like right when he confessed, like God made it to where we got that place. But then I remember Pastor Steve bought us a hotel for that night because we wouldn't have been able to move until like the next day. So then Pastor used his points that he got from like I think from like past revivals or something like that, and used his points and basically got us a really, really nice hotel.
Amen. So the point is, if you have something that you need to confess, you're gonna be blocking yourself from receiving the blessing that God has for you, and God's pretty much just gonna wait until He puts you in a situation where you have no choice but to say, "Yes, I will comply."
But so even when we were coming and he was smoking and he was heavily addicted, good things actually still were happening.
Right.
We got a car, we got a place, we got a job. And this was like before Cold Stone, like, because we worked with Chelsea at like a couple like conveyor belt jobs, and he found that medical job to clean medical equipment. And, good things were actually, like, God was actually like physically taking care of us through Pastor. Pastor helped us find a place. Pastor helped us get a car, things like that. So even while we were smoking, or while he was smoking, good things were happening. And all these things were also happening too because I didn't rat him out. I, as the wife, was supposed to be the one to say, like, this is wrong. And I didn't even tell Pastor, even while Pastor was providing all this help. And so it could seem like, oh, well, nothing bad is happening. Nothing is going wrong. Everything is going great. We got jobs. We got a place to stay. We moved out of Vallejo, like we're in Fremont. And yeah, we had no idea. He got chased by a raccoon.
I went out on I think it was Sunday night. I waited till midnight, okay?
Yes, he was so addicted he would wait until midnight to go get
I waited
weed.
till midnight, kept the Sabbath holy. I waited till
At least he kept the fourth commandment.
right. So I waited till midnight, and I went out to go meet with this guy that I was getting weed from. And as I'm on my way there, a raccoon comes out of the bushes and starts chasing me. So I'm running.
And he's high already.
I'm running, and the raccoon is running like right next to me. And it looks like we're racing each other.
He said he thought he like outran it, and so he was still running. And then he looks, and as he was running, and the raccoon was just looking at him, and he was like looking at the raccoon, and they were like running together.
Yeah, black people don't do raccoons.
And it was like 1:30 at night. I heard like these banging up the stairs. He like ran in, like banged or like slammed the front door, and then he still was running in the house to the back of the room like the raccoon was still there. And then he like came into the bedroom. He was like, I was like, what happened? He goes, I was chased by a raccoon. And I was like, and I looked at him and I just went back to bed. I was like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah, because originally I was going to have her drive me there.
And I said no.
She said no.
So he got mad. He got mad, and he actually got really mad at me because I said no.
Because I couldn't drive at the time. Yeah, I didn't have a license, so I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just have her drive me there.
And I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah,
No.
so, she resisted, as much as she could, but God still had to create a situation where I had to, confess pretty much, so.
Yeah. So kind of to bring it all, he came to the church. Pastor was still helping us. Good things were still happening, and God was still providing for us, even in the midst of me not telling, Pastor that my husband has this addiction, and also him not going to God or to Pastor about his addiction. And it got to the point where we almost became homeless. He lost a job. Our car was completely totaled. And God basically cornered us to confess to Pastor, like, what was happening. So then once he confessed, things did get better, because after that, Pastor basically, like, he even said it. He's like, I'm going to be like your drill sergeant, like he would text us every day. He actually helped both of us get a job at Cold Stone. We got the little Mitsubishi car that everyone here knows about, their little Mitsubishi Mirage. And we moved into this Mexican lady's house, and we were renting a room from her, and it was a really, really nice house. And things actually, like, got better. And then Pastor also took over our money, and he would help us go grocery shopping. He would literally take our money, help save it, and he would go grocery shopping for us, and he would text us, like, what kind of food do you guys want for the week? What do you guys need? And he actually budgeted for us, and things actually slowly not only, like, got restored, but actually became so much better. And, like Deacon Jr. was saying, he didn't have a license. We didn't have a car. He never really held a job. And through Pastor, Pastor basically taught him that, and just because, like, even though it's like weed, it could be any addiction, right? But something even that seems like so small, like weed, like anything that comes before God is wrong.
Right. So, yeah, just to sum things up, if you got anything that you feel like could be holding you back, it probably is. For me, it was that, and that was something that I was battling with for a long time, and that actually ended up being the first miracle that I experienced. Um, God actually delivered me from that. Um, I didn't really, I didn't really think that I would actually be set free from that. You know, when you get into the addiction, you kind of think that like this is it, and you kind of like settle and think like, oh man, I guess I'm gonna just have to live with this, and it's just gonna be like this forever. But even in the midst of like the everything turning out bad, it still worked out good. You know, the Bible says God makes all things work together for our good. You know, so praise God.
So you got delivered at that moment.
I absolutely did. Never went back, never felt the temptation again after that.
The smell would give him headaches.
Yeah, I actually would get sick. So I would hear, I would go to like gas stations and stuff, and like people would be smoking, and it'd give me headaches. You know, like God just completely delivered me.
But in that moment, after he got delivered, he still experienced withdrawals. And then 1 year so it was that Christmas, a year later, Pastor helped save us money. That's when we were able to get our rings. And God surprised us actually with like a small little, just like a mini, it was like a surprise, like mini ceremony, you know? So within 1 year, it was all restored.
Amen.
All right, amen.